SMQB's episode 270. We're here with House, Pope, myself, Rooster, Milk, and House's son, Josh. Hey, Josh, before we get started, I wanted to congratulate Josh for his recent induction into the Philadelphia Maccabi Hall of Fame for his soccer career. Congratulations, Josh.
Thank you.
And you'll be hearing more from Josh about the World Cup.
Is House in the Hall of Fame? Did he make the Hall of Fame?
House is in his own personal Hall of Fame.
Yes, it's a very small one.
I think he's in like the Tulane Trivia Hall of Fame.
Yeah,
or something like that.
For chess.
I'm in the what was the beach that I beat Nace in that race on? I'm in that Hall of Fame.
Yeah.
Sand Pearl.
That's true.
That's right.
Clearwater.
The Sand Pearl Hall of Fame.
Sand Pearl Hall of Fame.
For old men racing.
I'm undefeated.
Nace wants a rematch.
Yeah.
I'm undefeated.
Yeah, Nace has lost a bunch of weight.
Bring it on.
We need to see this.
Bring it on. First, he's got to show up on the podcast.
Any torn hammies.
Okay.
He's in trial.
All right, we're going to start out taking someone to the bar. Let's start with you, Milk. Who do you have?
Well, I want to congratulate. It's a little known fact that we have a powerhouse in baseball in Tampa, and I'm not talking about the Rays. I'm talking about the University of Tampa, who over the weekend won their third consecutive national championship in baseball. They are managed by a guy named Joe Urso, who's a Tampa native who I know well, went to my high school. And I want to take him to the bar and congratulate him. But
wow,
I'm telling you, University of Tampa baseball is next level. If they could compete with a lot of Division I teams. Another natty for UT.
We thought you were going to Palma see a little league.
Yeah, I know. I thought that's what you were going to say.
Congratulations to them too. My son won the 8th. Thank you guys for mentioning that last week. By the way, my son did win the district championship.
So you have two sons though in that league, right?
No. My oldest doesn't do that anymore, but my youngest still does a little league. And
I'd like to take Preston to the bar.
Yeah.
He'd be a blast.
I'm pretty sure it wouldn't even be his first drink.
That's true.
It's probably right.
He's probably had a milk
He's going to be
punch.
tapping kegs one day.
Pope, who are you taking to?
So I am taking Golden Tempo to the bar.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't know if we've ever taken a horse to a bar, but yeah, I'm taking Golden Tempo for winning the second Triple Crown race that he entered into, the third leg of the Triple Crown, the Belmont Stakes, pulling another, coming from behind all the way to first place. And because I doubt Golden Tempo will allow to have any alcohol, I'll be bringing Sherry DeVoe with me as well, his trainer and the first female to win 2 Triple Crown races in one season. Second female to win a Belmont. I'll probably have a mint julep with her and a little carrot juice with Golden Tempo.
All right, or some steroids, right?
I hate when they pull out of one leg,
Yeah. House, how about you?
I could not decide between a few different ones here, but I feel like somebody's going to take one of these other guys to the bar. So I am going to take Pennsylvania's own Hershey, Pennsylvania, Captain America, Christian Pulisic.
Yeah.
It is on you, sir. We come on. It's here in our country. We're going to talk about it today. You are the captain. You are the one that can take us to the promised land, or at least maybe quarterfinals. We got to do this. He's unquestionably our leader, likely our leading scorer. So I'm going to juice him up, get him some Gatorade or whatever else he wants at the bar. We got this.
Friday night.
Yeah.
Friday night.
Josh, do you have somebody you want to take to the bar?
Yes, I do have somebody, although I'm not sure they would get in. They could with a fake ID, but my answer would be Lamine Yamal, who will be the youngest starter at this year's World Cup and probably one of the best players. And I would just love to ask him how he's feeling. He plays for Spain. He will be one of the headline players at this World Cup. He's already widely regarded as the best player in the world by many fans, and he is yet to play at a World Cup. So this will be his first World Cup. I would just ask him how he's feeling. He is 17 and he turns 18 during the tournament. So
he's
he will
already
be turning.
He's already been drinking in
Yes,
Spain.
of course.
No
In
question
Spain,
about that.
in Spain,
Rioja.
I think
Spain, yeah,
definitely.
he started
But
10 years
Yeah.
ago.
He started at lunch with his parents. I'm going to take Karl-Anthony Towns to the bar. Just because I'm so proud of him for finally toughening up. And he's given Wemby the business, and I just want to congratulate him and tell him to keep it up.
Wow.
Before
Big
we
game
get
tonight.
I can't
Yeah,
believe
baby.
nobody took Wemby to the bar.
He doesn't
Wemby.
deserve to go.
Yesterday's news
Good
now.
puss. Before we get to the main thing we wanted to talk about tonight, let me just thank our sponsors who make the show possible. Injury Board, Plaintiff Lawyer Networking Organization. You can find them at injuryboard.org. Digital Law Marketing, which does the SMQB's website and legal websites, digitallawmarketing.com. Supio at supio.com makes an excellent AI software program that works with case management systems for law firms. And Assembly, who at assembly.com has some of the finest case management software programs out there, and has for decades. Many of us are currently using Neos. You will hear a lot more about all of them later in the show, and you can check them out on our website at smqbs.net. So, House, lead the discussion with Josh about the World Cup, because most of us and many of our listeners need to be educated about what's in store.
Well, let me tell you kind of a special guest that we have today. It's certainly my privilege. This is my son, but it's not just purely nepotism here at SMQBs. Josh is a very highly regarded soccer player from a long, long time. I watched a lot of his games on the pitch. Played basically for about 15 years, from about 3 to 18. Won himself 3 gold medals for the Philly Maccabi team against international teams and teams from the United States as well. Was all everything in our league here in southeastern Pennsylvania, which is a high level of soccer. Played center back for the Harrington Rams, was first team all league, and basically has ate, slept, and breathed soccer as soon as he could speak. And so when we were getting ready for the World Cup, I'd like to think that some of us could have gotten around the block a little bit on soccer, but I thought that no one could help us better than Josh's encyclopedic knowledge on soccer. So welcome to the pod, Josh. And I guess I just want to get
He's also a longtime listener.
He's a longtime listener, and he knows a thing or two from sports. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. Thank you very much. But
from Spouse's Tree, right?
Yes, from Spouse's Tree. So we wait every 4 years for this. It's come to North America. Josh, maybe you could just start us all off and our listeners with the broad overview of the World Cup. Like, how many countries are involved? How many divisions are there? How is this whole thing set up generally?
Yeah, no, I'd love to give a quick introduction. First of all, just want to say thank you guys for having me on. I'm super excited, and I always love supporting the SMQBs. So yeah, I mean, I'm super excited, for the 2026 World Cup to be in the U.S., which is being co-hosted by the U.S., Canada, and Mexico. But before, I got into an overview, I did just want to ask you guys what you guys remember from the last World Cup that was in the U.S. In 1996. So obviously, it was
Actually 1994, Josh.
1994. Yes, my bad. It was a while ago, but I'm just curious to kind of hear what you guys thought of that World Cup, and what were some of your takeaways, going into the one that is now in 2026.
I mean, I remember Landon Donovan being our Christian Pulisic at the time. And I remember, actually, if anything, and Pope, you'll tell me if I had this right, but I'm pretty sure the women's championship came before that. The whole Brandi Chastain lifting off the shirt, that whole thing.
Yeah.
I thought that was before that. So I thought what year was Brandi Chastain? Because the only reason I say that, I feel like there was hype about the Men's World Cup here in the United States because soccer was still, soccer was very popular, but we didn't have the MLS. We didn't have all of that. And I just feel like there's nowhere near the enthusiasm we have now. I think one of the things that has changed that so much is actually video games. I mean, I think so many kids play FIFA that they understand, they know these teams from all around the world. There wasn't FIFA back then, but it was
1999. That was Brandi Chastain's moment.
That was not, wow. Brandi Chastain was after.
Yeah.
Interesting.
The thing I remember about that World Cup was that it broke a bunch of records for attendance, which was surprising. It was the most widely attended World Cup at the time in history.
How far did the USA team get that year? Did they get to the quarters? Or did they
No.
not get out of there?
No, I think we got out of the group, but I don't think it was anything further than that. And didn't we? Was that the tournament? You can see our memories have faded.
Yeah.
Fast.
So
Did we beat
US
Mexico
that year? The U.S. that year made it to the round of 16 and ended up losing to Brazil, who won.
Yeah.
Oh, that's right.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it was a pretty good tournament for the U.S.
So
for sure.
My
I saw a game.
experience.
Go ahead, Pope. Go ahead.
Well, no, I mean, go ahead, Rooster.
I was going to say I saw a game in D.C. I think it was Ireland against Saudi Arabia. And it was just amazing to me how well the fans from both countries traveled. I mean, the place was just jammed with flags. There were very few, neutral spectators like me. Most of them were pulling for one team or the other.
So I saw the quarterfinal match at the Cotton Bowl in 1994. And that was, when you ask about my experience, it was a blur because it was such a great day, capped off by partying with lots of Dutch who are all in orange and partying all over the part of Dallas where we go back in the 90s for libations and fun. But Brazil, I don't remember before that World Cup, the ole, ole, ole chant permeating the sports scene. But the Brazilian fans, I mean, ad nauseum, it was amazing. And it was at the Cotton Bowl, which is a shitty venue, but back in 94, it was a little bit better. It was packed. It was orange, and then yellow and green for Brazil. I look forward to seeing what kind of, enthusiasm the crowds will have here, 32 years later, because 94 was pretty amazing.
This is the year that Pablo Escobar killed the guy, right? That was Colombia, USA.
Really?
The guy, yes.
For the own goal, right?
We beat Colombia because the Colombia guy scored on his own goal, and then Pablo Escobar murdered him. I shouldn't laugh at that. 2 months later in Colombia. Yeah, I totally remember this now.
It's crazy.
That is crazy. Guy with the long red hair?
Was Milk. You're right on.
Well, the guy who's the commentator now,
1994 World Cup.
Alexi Leilas.
World Cup. We beat Colombia through. They scored on their own goal. I remember this.
Yep.
Yeah,
but I agree with Pope that look, we're coming off the heels of what was maybe one of the greatest World Cup final games of all time, with the two stars starring on the biggest stage between Messi and Mbappe. So as much as I want to see the stars and something like that, I just can't wait, like Pope said, to have the enthusiasm take over all of these stadiums and have the U.S. really get the soccer and World Cup fever again.
I mean, Josh, you know this. Our World Cup in 2026 is much bigger field than it was in 1994. Yeah. So there's lots more games. I mean, Dallas has 9 games.
Lucky.
Yeah.
Well, in 94, we were the only host.
Yeah. And that is actually one of the first points that I was going to bring up is that, yes, this year there are, 3 host countries, USA, Canada, and Mexico, with 104 games total. But 78 of those 104 games are in the USA, with 13 in Canada, 13 in Mexico. So a large majority of the games are going to be in the U.S.
Do the
And
host countries automatically get in?
Yes.
Is this why Canada's in this damn thing? I knew it.
Yep.
Actually,
Unbelievable.
typically the answer would be
God.
yes, but this year
So
that
annoying. Yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
it's
okay. I
The
get it now.
Canadians
But-
qualified?
Yeah. No, they just hosted probably.
they did not, but they
Thank
would
you,
have
Josh. Thank you.
qualified.
Keep going.
So, this year is going to be the first ever 48 team tournament. There was a vote on the FIFA board to decide to expand the World Cup after the last World Cup, going from 32 to 48 teams. So now there's going to be an expanded group stage. There's 12 groups of 4. And the tournament is going to run from starting this Thursday, June 11th, with the final being played at MetLife Stadium in July on the 19th. So the tournament is a little over a month, with the final being at, one of the biggest stadiums in the U.S.
And a shitty stadium at that.
Yeah, and I was about to say, and it'll be interesting to see because last summer they did a little pre-World Cup with something called the Club World Cup, which essentially was the World Cup for club teams like PSG and Real Madrid. And they tested out these stadiums, and my dad and I were lucky enough to hit a couple matches, and it was definitely a hassle getting to and from. The security wasn't great, so hopefully they've improved on some of that stuff, especially on the biggest stage. It will be very interesting to see some of the logistics going into this World Cup. And I think, aside from all the hype, I think, one of the biggest worries amongst fans, like all of ourselves, is getting to and from the games and pricing as well. Because, some of the games are just completely unbelievable. And I was curious to know your guys' opinions, who, maybe aren't the biggest soccer fans, but still would like to go to a game, on, the current ticket pricing, if you guys have seen it.
What are the prices right now? Because I'm hearing like $1,500, $2,000.
Yeah. So
Depends on the
if you
match.
wanna
Depends on the location.
Exactly. So if
Yeah.
you want to see a Messi or Ronaldo or Brazil or France, the tickets are going to be expensive. Upper bowl, you're getting, a little less than 1,000, and then lower bowl, you're paying north of 1,000 per ticket. But if you wanted to see, a lower tier match, like a good example is like Ivory Coast versus Curacao. Like I saw something last week that those tickets just were the first game to go under 200 for any game and any ticket. So
Where is that?
kind of gives you a gauge. I'm actually not sure.
Miami?
That-
It might be in.
No, I don't think Ivory Coast Curacao is in Philly. But
So, like Milk, this will give you an idea for just to get into the England versus Croatia game, because a lot of people want to see England at
Yeah.
Dallas Stadium. The get in is $885 for the top row of the nosebleeds.
But here's what's interesting. I don't get too far off on this, but there have been some lawsuits already that FIFA and resellers were working together to basically price gouge. The resellers would grab all of these tickets and make it impossible to actually get anything close to face. And there have been a couple successes so far. I've talked to Josh a bunch about this. Ultimately, if the resellers are holding hundreds, if not thousands of tickets, and they're stuck with these ridiculous prices, they eventually it's got to shake free at some point. And so I think the strategy for a lot of fans is going to be wait as long as you can, and even if need be, scalp at the last minute, and you'll be able to get under that, $500, $400, $300 price.
What does everyone feel about this expansion, by the way? I mean, this seems to be the trend in all sports. We keep growing NCAA tournament. Now we have 48 teams. Does this kind of lessen the competition?
Water it down a little bit.
I don't know.
Yeah, I think for this specific competition, to your point, it is really crazy how many different sports are trying to expand. I mean, we've seen the college football playoffs. Now they're trying to do March Madness. We've seen so many different competitions, but I think on the world stage, when you're, adding 16 teams to a tournament of 32, it just widens the skill gap so much. I mean, at the last World Cup, the biggest upset was Saudi Arabia beating Argentina in the group stage. And Saudi Arabia were widely regarded as one of the worst teams at the World Cup. And now, the worst teams at the World Cup, it's their first ever World Cup, and some of these teams are considered Cape Verde, Curacao, and people are questioning if these teams are even going to score a goal. So the reason I don't love the expansion, I really like putting other countries on the world stage. I'm all here for that, but I just think the skill gap between, some of the A tier and the B tier countries and some of the teams that have been added is way too wide. So it'll be interesting to see, but I definitely think the expansion will not boast out well for the lower tier teams for sure.
Well, Josh, talking about the talent, let's start again at a high level. Beyond all these crappy ones that came about as a result of the expansion, last time out we were treated to two of the very best in Argentina and France making the final. What would be the conventional wisdom of the top, 4, 5, 6 teams that fans should expect to see probably will make it to the semis or the finals?
Yeah, that's a good question, and I think there are really 4 clear-cut teams, and then I think there's 2 teams right on the edge of those. And I think, the top 4 teams, which I don't think should be a surprise to anyone, are Spain, England, France, and Argentina. So, the 2 finalists from the last World Cup, I don't think it would be a surprise to anyone if either of those teams were to make it again. And then I think 2 teams that are just behind them that no one would be surprised if they made it are Brazil and Portugal as well. So I think, your powerhouses, the teams that are typically good are really back to power again, and should be a really entertaining World Cup, given that, the best teams are really kind of the teams that you would expect. And I think that makes for a really interesting game when it will hopefully end up coming down to that.
So Josh,
House got us all kind of interested in World Cup soccer leading up to the 2018 World Cup, the year France won. And then from there, we all picked Premier League teams based on how we did in picking our World Cup teams. But that's when, at least I first learned about Mbappe. So who's the Mbappe of this World Cup?
Yeah, so I would say the Mbappe of this World Cup is Lamine Yamal. And although he already is extremely popular amongst a lot of soccer fans like myself, he hasn't played at the world stage yet. So I think although he's already a massive superstar, there's still a lot of people who have no idea who he is. And I think given that, Spain are one of the best teams and he's the best player on their team, his stardom is only going to be taken to another level. And given the fact that he's going to be turning 18, similar to how Mbappe was super young, I think it's an extremely similar story. And another storyline that I think could be, very into play is that at the Euros, which is the tournament in between each World Cup, it's all the best European teams. It happens every 4 years in between the World Cup, similar to the Summer and Winter Olympics, how they alternate. Lamine Yamal knocked out Mbappe in the semifinals and scored a wonderful goal. So Mbappe is trying to get revenge on Lamine Yamal, and Lamine Yamal is trying to do it on the complete global stage. And I think he'll definitely be a fan favorite of everyone once the World Cup is all said and done.
Josh, for us old heads that would think about who are the powerhouses in soccer, it's surprising that of the teams that you didn't mention, what has happened to Germany? Why aren't they in that top 6 anymore?
Yeah, I think they're going through a little bit of a weird transition phase where they just lost some of their biggest legends, are starting to get too old. And then some of their young talent, which is very good, they're just very unexperienced. And, I think Germany are definitely still up there in terms of odds wise and, people expecting them to be a good team. They will be a good team. I just think in terms of the top teams, they just don't have the same star power and talent as, the Argentinas, France's, Brazil's, Spain, England, and Portugal.
Josh, it looks like there's the next tier. Maybe you wouldn't be surprised if they made a run to the quarters or semis, would include Germany, but also the Netherlands, Belgium, and Norway, who have some big stars on those teams.
Yep, you hit it right on the nail. Those are some of the next tier teams, and I think there are some other teams that you could definitely throw in there. I actually do have Norway as one of my more disappointing teams. But I think a team that did really well at last World Cup, which I definitely think will be in that second tier, is Morocco. They made it to the semifinals. They were Africa's most popular team and had, pretty much the entire continent of Africa rooting for them. And I think it'll be very similar this World Cup. I think Morocco will do very well. And I think no one should be surprised if they go to the quarters, and especially round of 16. But I think, some of those teams that you named, Netherlands and Belgium and Germany, are all really strong teams. I think for those teams, given that they're European powerhouses, anything short of really the quarterfinals is a failure. If those teams get knocked out in the round of 32 or round of 16, they're going to be looking back at this World Cup as a failure for sure. So I think, some of the differences between those second tier teams and, teams like Morocco and honestly even Norway. I mean, Norway, haven't been in the World Cup in a while. This is their first World Cup. I know they weren't in the last one or 2018. So it'll be interesting to see how they do. But I don't think, those teams have like Norway and Morocco have as high expectations as your Belgiums, Netherlands, Germany's. Those teams, all have high expectations. So it'll be really interesting to see, how those European countries do.
Now, how about the United States? We skipped over the U.S. Tell us about what's the likelihood, what's the ceiling for what they can achieve, and tell us about the team. Who are the names that we should familiarize? I mean, we talked about Christian Pulisic at the top, but who should we get to know?
Yeah, I definitely want to talk about USA. It's a really exciting group, and one thing that I think this is extremely fair to say, and I think a lot of people would agree, this is by far the most talented team that we've ever had. Some people call this the quote unquote golden generation for the team. And while, they haven't fully achieved anything that has surpassed other teams in terms of talent, in terms of where the players are playing in Europe and abroad, this is the most talent that we've had. I think a very extremely fair expectation for this team is the round of 16 minimum. I think if the USA falls short of the round of 16, everyone can be pretty disappointed. I think as a team, last World Cup, you look at the team and they did pretty well, but you're looking at Pulisic and McKinney and Adams as stars. And, you're naming, 3 to 5 players, but you look at this current team and, we have a core of 5 to 7 players now that are all playing at the highest level in Europe, which is why I think expectations are pretty fair to be high. And this is, in terms of what they've achieved, this is probably the best, coach that we've ever had.
Tell us about the coach.
Yeah, so our coach of the last World Cup was Greg Berhalter. He was widely criticized for even getting the job at the World Cup. And although he did a decent job, fans were calling for his head, throughout the last 5 to 7 years that he was the head coach. So, U.S. Soccer did what the fans were asking for and went out for a European coach. Pochettino's from Argentina, but, he has coached Tottenham. He's coached PSG. He's coached Chelsea. He's coached some of the biggest clubs in the world, along with some of the biggest players in the world. So the U.S. decided to bring him in, and what they brought him in for was the World Cup. He was coach of some of the smaller competitions that we've competed in over the last 2 years, but this is what they had circled on their calendar. So it'll be interesting to see how we do, obviously. But I think in terms of coaching talent, in terms of playing talent, this is the best team that we've ever had. And I think that should get fans really excited.
And when the USA scores goals, what are the names that we're going to hear scoring goals for the USA?
Yeah, so I think, like you mentioned it earlier, Christian Pulisic should be number one. He's our best player. I wouldn't say, years ago, I would say he's by far our best player, but now I think there's other players that are close to him. They're not necessarily goal scorers, but I think Weston McKennie will be a huge fan favorite. He'll probably score a goal or two. He probably won't be the leading scorer, but huge fan favorite. He plays in the midfield, wears number 8. Another, top scorer will be Folarin Balogun. A lot of people call him Flo. That's his nickname. He plays for Monaco in France, who, are a pretty good club team. They were in the Champions League this year. He's going to be our starting striker, and I would not be surprised at all if he was our top scorer of this tournament. He will be really exciting to watch. And then another player that I want to circle, who a lot of U.S. fans probably aren't very familiar with, is Malik Tillman. He hasn't played a lot for the U.S., but a lot of fans expect him to start. He plays on Bayer Leverkusen, which is a top team in Germany, who are also in the Champions League. He had a pretty decent season there. He's super young, super creative, and I think he'll be, a fan favorite as well. But in terms of overall on the team, we have a super balanced team this year. I think you can look at defense as probably our weakest spot, but we've never really been in a position where you can look at multiple spots of the team and think, wow, this is really strong. So I'm really excited. Personally, I think our ceiling is going to the semifinals, and I think our floor,
that's a pretty high ceiling.
It is, and it's unlikely, but I think it's possible. If we win our
group,
you're
a Philly sports fan. It's not surprising you have a high ceiling.
Who's in our group, by the way? Initial group, and any concerns?
Can you handicap the group?
So I was going to segment into that next. If we top our group, I think we will have a pretty favorable path, and it's a doable thing for us to top our group. So our 3 opponents are going to be Turkey, Paraguay, and Australia. To put it pretty plain, Australia and Paraguay should be easy wins for the USA. I'd be surprised if they drop points in either of those games. Another huge advantage is home field. The U.S. fans are going to be filling up these stadiums. They picked stadiums that have, the best U.S. soccer fans. And I think that was highly into the decision-making of picking where USA play. I know one of the bigger games is in Seattle, and, the Seattle Sounders and the MLS have some of the best fans. They've been around for a while, and a lot of people would say Seattle's, a great place for soccer fans in general. But in terms of competition, I think Paraguay and Australia should be wins, and a really tough game will be Turkey. I wouldn't be surprised if Turkey win the group. They're very dangerous. They did very good at the Euros, way better than people expected 2 years ago. And it'll be a really interesting match between USA and Turkey. Both teams have a lot of young talent. Both teams are, have fans that consider them to have higher expectations than maybe others. But I think what's so interesting about our group is you have 2 teams who are very on similar levels, USA and Turkey, and then 2 teams who are a little lower. I think both USA and Turkey would be disappointed if they lose or tie to the other 2 teams. And then, it'll be interesting to see who tops our group. I think, between USA and Turkey, it will be a hard battle, but I'm going to back USA to win the group.
Let's go.
Could be a lot of pressure in that last match, because it's the last match in the group is Turkey and USA at SoFi.
I remember
they're already advancing at that point.
Exactly.
It's
And I
top
think,
2 advance, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
yeah, so that's the next thing that I was going to get into is that, so with the expanded tournament, they've made some new rules about getting to the next stage. So now 32 out of the 48 teams advance into the knockout rounds. So it's pretty disappointing if you don't advance.
Kind of suck.
So yeah, literally.
That would be
so
a
you would,
massive disappointment. My gosh.
yeah. If
So how do they
USA don't get out
decide
of the group,
beyond the top 2 in the group? How do you decide who the other ones are?
so there's 12 groups of 4, and 8 of the third place teams are going through to the knockout rounds, and that's going to be based off how many points you get. And if you're tied with another team, the tiebreaker is goal differential. So I think, given that there's so many third place teams making it, one thing to look out for this tournament is teams aren't gonna take their foot off the gas.
Right.
When a
Run
team
it
goes
Blowout,
up
some
2-0,
blowout
Run up the
yeah,
score.
Bad
exactly.
teams play each other.
Exactly.
I remember under the last head coach, there was a lot of conflict with Claudio Reyna and his wife and the coach.
Oh, yeah.
And there was a fair amount of blowback against Giovanni Reyna, and to the point where some people were upset that he even made the team this year. What's the deal with that? Do you think he should be on the team?
Yeah, I do. And I'm really glad he's on the team, but I'm glad he's not starting because I think last World Cup, I think that provided a massive distraction to the team. I mean, how could it not? And, he deserves a spot on the squad 100%. But I think, there's a very low chance of him starting. And I think he provides a great spark off the bench. He's not your guy that needs to play, the full 90 minutes, but in 20 minutes, he can make something happen. And I think it's perfect for the whole team because he's not in the center spotlight like he was last World Cup with all the controversy between, Berhalter and the board and his dad. So, yeah, that's a great question. And I think now all that stuff is finally behind the team. And I think, one of the biggest things that's going for the USA is the cohesion in the squad. I think last World Cup there were so many distractions. This year everyone is really tight, and I think that can help them go a long way.
Josh, I know you mentioned that lots of third place teams are able to go through, which kind of changes the old group of death where only 2 are going to go through out of the toughest group. But is one of these groups considered the group of death, the hardest group in the whole World Cup?
Yeah, definitely. And that's actually one point that I want to quickly just touch back on when you said, do you like the expansion of the World Cup? Because, now it takes away a lot of the group stage because 32 teams are going through. Before there were 32 teams total. So now when you have a group of death, which we do have, one, I'd say there's 2, one big one, which I'll go into in a second. You know, it used to be the top 2 teams go through, that's it. Now with the third team going through, the group of death is kind of eliminated because all 3 teams could make it. So the group of death this year is France's group. It's Group I. They have France, Norway, Senegal, who are a team to look out for from Africa. They are very talented, and Iraq. So Iraq are widely regarded as the worst team in this group. France are widely regarded as the best, but Norway and Senegal will be a very good match. Those are 2 very strong teams, and this group has 3 really strong teams, which, in the expanded tournament is hard to find. So I definitely think that'll be a group to watch out for. And the other group, which I think, everyone should be circling, is Group C. Group C has Brazil, who, should finish at the top, but they also have Morocco, who I mentioned before, who are really good. And they also have Scotland. And Scotland are, they're not the best, but they could definitely be a team to look out for. And I think, they could cause some problems. And I would not be surprised if Brazil don't finish at the top of that group just because of the sheer difficulty. So I'd say Group C and Group I are the 2 groups in terms of best teams.
So who is Josh Milrood, the soccer expert, picking to win the World Cup? Put your marker down here, Josh.
And over who?
That's
What's your final?
Yeah, so my final, I think there's 2 clear-cut teams, and that's England and France. And I think that will be the final. I do like Spain. I just think that they're lacking a little bit in the midfield and defense this year, which I think will end up being very costly. I think France and England there's two reasons why I think these will be the final teams. One, I think they're the deepest teams, and that'll be really important in this World Cup. I think one of the headlines, which is something we haven't even talked about, is the heat. They're doing something at this World Cup which has never been done before, which is hydration breaks. So at the at the halfway point of the first half and the halfway point of the second half, they're stopping the game and letting all the players get water. The European players and a lot of the other players are not used to playing in this heat, which is a little ridiculous.
Snowflakes.
It's not like, yeah, it's America. I think it's one thing that will get American fans in general a little upset. So everyone be prepared for it. But in general, France and England are the two deepest teams. And because of the heat, subs are going to matter a lot. Subs are going to change the game. When you're tied after 90 minutes, it goes to extra time and you play 120 minutes, and coaches are going to be looking to their bench. And in my opinion, France and England have the two deepest teams, which is why I think they'll both go to the final. And my official pick, I'm going with England.
Whoa.
England have been so close in multiple different tournaments.
They never do well on this stage.
They've never won. They always do well, but they never win. Okay. And the reason that I'm picking them to win is because of their coach. England have traditionally gone with an English manager because that's what a lot of the biggest teams do. They feel like the players will fight harder. They feel like he aligns with the fans more. He can connect with the fans. But England have had enough of the English managers who have, not brought them any silverware. So they decided to go out and get Bayern Munich's former coach, Thomas Tuchel, who is widely regarded as one of the best coaches at the World Cup. He won the Champions League with Chelsea just 5 years ago. He's taken Bayern on multiple deep runs in the Champions League. His specialty is knockout tournaments. That's what people know him for as a coach, and that's why I'm picking England. I think they have the best coach, and I think they have the best defense. England's defense is incredible, and their options in the back are incredible, and I think I'm a big believer in defense wins championships, really in any sport. And I think, between the coaching and the defense and your boy Harry Kane Milk, I think they can get it done.
Some of our listeners, Josh, have what people would refer to as a gambling problem.
In states where you can do such,
a dark horse to win the whole thing, somebody with maybe, high odds.
Yeah.
Who would you recommend?
I'm going to throw out two. So the first one I already mentioned is Morocco. I think Morocco are, first of all, they have the experience, which is huge. They were in the semifinals of the last World Cup. They have a really good squad. They actually added some really good players to their squad who weren't at the last World Cup team. So they'll definitely be a huge sleeper at high odds. And then my other team is Colombia. We haven't talked about them yet. Colombia are definitely a team to watch. They have some of the biggest stars. Their best player is Luis Diaz, who's on Bayern Munich, one of the best teams in the world. He's one of their biggest stars. And I really just think that Colombia are another well-rounded team who are definitely going to shock some people. I think those are two teams outside of the top six that could win it. I think, like I mentioned, the skill gap between teams this year is bigger than ever. So I think it'll be extremely hard for these teams to win it. But if there was a team, I'd say Morocco or Colombia for sure.
So we could have like a Final Four that would like be basically like NCAA, like a bunch of number one seeds all make it to the Final Four.
Yeah, I don't think that would be surprising at all.
That'd be awesome.
That would be awesome.
And I really think it would be awesome, especially, and I'm glad that, Rooster mentioned this earlier when he said you guys watched the World Cup, which ended up getting you guys to pick your Premier League teams. Like, what I say to all non-soccer fans is the World Cup is the best way to get into soccer. There's no better sporting competition in the world, in my opinion. And if you are looking to get into soccer or don't really know how to get into it, watch the World Cup and maybe go to a game or go to a bar or go to one of the fan festivals that are in one of the host cities. It's truly incredible to see the fans, like how you guys mentioned, at the World Cup in 1994, how it was incredible. It's going to be the same way with an even expanded, team pool. So there'll be even more countries. I'm in New York right now, and I already have seen so many Scotland fans who are playing here, which is incredible to see. And I think, just being able to see how much the other countries care and put passion into it will make people love the World Cup. So I think, if you're not into soccer, you definitely need to watch the World Cup, and definitely watch it with friends or watch it at a bar. It'll be a great experience, 100%.
So we start with Group A on Thursday, and if a guy that rhymes with bilk wanted to make a bet on the games of Mexico, South Africa, and Korea versus the Czech Republic, Czechoslovakia, who's going to win those first two games?
Yeah, no, that's a very valid question for Milk. No shame, Milk.
What?
Rhymes with.
And others out there.
Speak slowly so I can write this down. Go ahead.
But yeah, so in the opening game, I fully expect Mexico to win. I'm not super high on Mexico, and I think they could actually be a disappointing team of the tournament. However, I think South Africa are lacking. So I will definitely back Mexico to win that game. But overall, stay away from Mexico. That's all I'm going to say. If you're going to be gambling, you're allowed to do it on Thursday, but I'm going to give you fair warning past that day. And then in the second game, I'm going with Czech Republic. I think they could actually win the group.
Wow.
They're very underrated. They qualified by beating Denmark, who are actually one of the best teams in Europe, actually. And it was a surprise to a lot of people that Denmark aren't there. Czech beat them to qualify. So I would not be surprised if Czech won the group, and I'm definitely picking them to beat South Korea.
All right.
There
you go.
Thanks, Josh.
Well, Josh, this was amazing. You're welcome to hang on to hear Rooster crow about the Knicks, because we're going to talk a little bit of NBA and NHL. But thank you. This is unbelievable.
I usually take a nap, so you can sub in for me if you want to.
Thank you, guys. Unfortunately, I do have to run, but I will add one segment quickly about the NBA. I don't know if you saw this, Rooster. This was hilarious. I saw this during my lunch break today, that Wemby was drawing sculptures in New York today in Central Park. He was sitting on a bench, and fans found him just drawing on a notepad before the game tonight.
Interesting.
Sculptures of
absolutely incredible. So
good for him.
I don't know what that says about the state of the team right now, but I don't think
he should be drawing pictures of his point guard to whom he needs to inbound the ball instead of the back of Stefan Castle.
100%. But Josh. I just wanted to say, thank you guys so much for having me.
Josh.
And I hope you guys all enjoy the World Cup.
Thanks, Josh.
Well, I'll tell you what.
Thanks.
We're kind of late here. We're running out of time, so let's just go around and give some quick thoughts about the NBA Finals. I'll start. I'm pissed at James Dolan right now. This should be something for all Knicks fans to enjoy, and he's basically set it up so that the billionaires are going to be there watching tonight, and they're paying $10,000 a seat, for the low end seats, and then because the president will be there, the fans can't even assemble out in the watch zones. So while the billionaires sit around watching the Knicks and probably won't be cheering like real fans, the rest of the people have to find somewhere else to watch. The people you saw outside having a great old time. So it just kind of sucks. I think he should have done more to make this affordable for especially the season ticket holders. Anyway, that's my thought.
Are you saying the Kardashian girl's not a real fan?
Yeah,
Come on.
right.
No,
Rooster-
she was in Monaco.
A lot of these celebs are real fans, like legit fans, but there are not enough of them to justify not one single regular person being able to get into the Garden.
Rooster, every year, probably for the next 15 years, Wemby's going to have the biggest game of his life, but tonight is the biggest game of his life. They lose tonight, it's a sweep. It just is. So he is capable of putting the team on his back. He's getting all this yapping about how he's just being eaten by Cat, which is pretty much true.
And OG.
He needs to, Pope made this point the other night on our text chain. He needs to play point center a lot less, and he just needs to play traditional center a lot more. Rebound, score down low, occasional three. You have other guys that can bring up the ball. Even against New York's pressuring defense, you have other guys that can bring up the ball. Wemby, stop. Now, I'm not just talking about the last play of the last game. If Wemby plays his usual game as a center and takes on Cat mano a mano, he can bring them back in the series.
Again, and he needs to do it early. He needs to stop letting the game come to the rest of the teammates. He needs to have a big first quarter.
Well, maybe they need to stop having double-digit leads that they blow.
There's that too.
All right, I have a stat for you. Last time a home NBA team lost the first two in the finals and won the championship.
Oh,
Never.
That's a good one.
The answer is house winner to winner. Never has a team lost the first two home games in the NBA finals and won. They've only done it 5 times, losing the first 2 games. So what a hole they've dug. And you're right, House. Tonight, 3-0. No team has ever come back from 3-0. The last team to lose 2 at home was the 1995 Orlando Magic, and they got swept by the Rockets. So I would say the writing is on the wall.
Yeah, the question is whether the Knicks win this thing in 4, 5, or 6 games, I think.
Yeah. And Rooster, you also nailed it from the beginning too. When we did our preview of it, that it was down to coaching, and there's been a big difference in this series. Big difference.
What I saw, somebody said the other day that Wemby shot 9 3-pointers. Was that the first game or the second game? And to me, I know who knows nothing about the NBA. I was like, that sounds like a shit ton for that guy.
Yep.
Like, why is he? What has happened here? Have they just figured out this team? Like, it just seems like the Knicks are dominating.
Yeah. I want to also give a shout out to, based on what House just said, Coach Mike Brown. Because if you guys remember, we all love Tibbs, right? And we were critical of the Knicks for firing Tibbs at the time of the year last year when they were precluded from speaking to a lot of the top choice coaches that they had. That didn't prevent them from putting it out there that so-and-so is our first choice, right? And then they got rejected once those guys, they couldn't talk to some of those guys, and others were rejecting them. And Mike Brown was like their 5th, 6th, or 7th choice, which was a really bad look. And man, that guy has just come in and injected, lots of joy, lots of camaraderie, and emotion offense. I mean, he's been a breath of fresh air. I think that this whole tight-knit group of players that everyone keeps talking about, Mike Brown has a lot to do with that. Because Cat was a head case under Tibbs.
He's pulling all the right strings. I mean, what, 13 in a row on the road, or is it 14 now?
Yep.
Insane.
It is. Looking back, it will be one of the more surprising sports stories of the whole year, because people thought Mike Brown was an afterthought, like you said. Tibbs is a great coach, but it appears like Mike Brown wasn't a player that was the missing link. It was the coach that was a missing link for this team.
People also were critical of the GM, thinking that, OG was a good player on the championship Raptors, but they gave up 3 good players to get him. They gave up Barrett and Quigley and one other good player. And then they thought, man, 5 draft picks for Mikal Bridges. That's crazy, which I thought I was one of them. I thought that was way too much. And as recently as a month ago, I thought that was too much because he wasn't playing well at the end of the season.
He is. I mean, yes, Kat has defended Wemby, but I think the defensive player of the series is Bridges.
Yep.
It's been amazing.
And he's hit big shots too. Well, let's quickly move on to the NHL. Pope, you watched that last game, right?
Yeah.
You saw the whole game?
Yeah.
I fell asleep. I fell asleep in the second overtime, but
It was
that may be one of the best games I've ever seen.
well, all 3 games have gone to overtime, and it's the Vegas was up 4-0 at the end of the second after was it Marner had a hat trick within 6 minutes, which is the fastest hat trick in a Stanley Cup playoff
It was
series.
nuts.
It was
Insane.
nuts. Yeah, they're up 4-0, and then Carolina scores 3 goals in 39 seconds, which is the fastest 3-goal score in Stanley Cup finals. And then Carolina ties it on just an insane, kind of the puck is bouncing, and they're able to push it in through the goalie. And so they go to overtime, and I think it was I don't have it. I think it's 0 for 148 are teams that have led by 4 goals in the third period in Stanley Cup playoff, not just finals, but playoffs. And so Carolina was going for, absolute history, and they dominated overtime, but weren't able to get the puck in. And then in the second overtime, kind of towards the beginning of it, Vegas had a shot that went off the backboard and ricocheted off the back skate of their goalie and into the goal to end it. So,
But
Vegas is up 2-1.
There's a crack in the armor of Carter Hart, Vegas's goalie, and Brandon Bussey, who was brought on after those 4 goals, was incredible. I mean, lost on a fluke goal. He's gonna start the next game. I'm not going to be surprised if Carolina makes its way back from this. Like you said,
a lot of hockey left.
There's a lot of hockey left, and if Bussey continues the way he was going, they've figured this out.
All right.
We'll be talking about it next Monday.
I kind of already announced my punchable face. So does anybody else have a punchable face of the week?
That was my punch too. Don't deprive the fans of the enjoyment of this, not only inside the stadium, but outside the stadium. The whole thing going on with the Knicks right now, eliminating these watch parties, everything that they've taken this away from the fans. These fans starving for decades for this. That's a real shame.
But you cannot have the Garden surrounded by watch parties with the president inside. That's just, the Secret Service would never allow that.
So why announce that he's coming?
Right.
Why doesn't he just show
made
up?
No sense. Just have him show up.
If he wants to watch, go watch. That's fine.
No,
But
that's all on
don't
Dolan.
announce it.
Dolan wanted to be the first one to get a president to a finals game.
A sitting
Right.
president, yeah.
Yep.
I got one. I got a punch.
Go ahead.
Oh, let's
No,
go.
no.
Milk.
I want to punch. You guys are going to be kind of surprised by this. Judge Ken Curry. Does anyone know who that is? He's actually in Texas, Pope. Do you know what he did today?
Did he let Brandon Sorsby play football?
Oh.
He granted an injunction.
Is that it?
And he's going to be coming back for the 2026 season for Texas Tech. Oh, he happens to be a Fort Worth judge, by the way. And
Isn't he suspended for 2 games?
maybe.
Yeah, but yes, he's missed the first 2 games, but that doesn't.
I don't
It's a
mind
slap
a
on the
little
wrist for that dude.
dabble in some gambling here and there, but the red line for me is when I found out he was betting against his team that he played for, by the way.
But he didn't play in the games, but it's irrelevant.
Who cares?
He's still got inside knowledge.
That's
from
like,
practice.
and I'm like, yeah, I don't care if you go and bet $20 on some freaking Pac-12 game, but you're betting against your own team. I know you're not playing. That was like the final straw for me. I was like, this guy's got to be done. And he's coming back next year, of course. And it's just like a bad stain for already college football that's in not the best shape. I just think it's a horrible decision. I wish it hadn't happened.
I know, and now what do we name our competition next year? Is it Mateer Matters or Sorsby something? I mean, we've got
Sorsby something for sure.
We've got 2 competing gambling quarterbacks in college football.
Right.
Wow. Anybody else? How about a lasso?
It's whatever's short of a lasso, just like there was a real
A hug?
yeah,
Yeah,
a hug.
hug.
We gave a
Just need a
lasso
hug.
years ago to a Danish soccer player named
Oh, yeah.
Christian Eriksen.
Mm-hmm.
He collapsed in the middle of a competition and
Died
they
on
thought
the field.
his heart was gone for a short
Yeah,
period of
yep.
time. And yesterday the Denmark team was playing in a friendly, and once again Christian Eriksen, or whatever, yesterday, the day before, this weekend, he collapsed on the field. He went unconscious. The players surrounded him so that there was privacy for the medical folks to attend to him. And they abandoned the game. They stopped the game. And then he regained consciousness. And the amazing thing is, the reason he regained consciousness was because of his pacemaker. They said the pacemaker did the job it was supposed to do. It reset it. He clearly has a problem that needs help. I'm just, thank God that did not turn into the tragedy that it did. But clearly this guy, his view is, I'm going to play this game, and if something happens to me, that's the place where I want to die.
I think he
want to
officially
play this game.
retired.
After that game,
Yeah.
he did?
Yeah. I think he's
Okay.
officially retired.
Okay. I mean, I still give my ovation and hug to Christian Eriksen. Boy, wow. That was scary, but thank God he's okay.
I've got one. I'm going to give a lasso to former Red Sox manager Alex Cora. Cora, when he played for the Dodgers, played for a manager named Jim Tracy. And these two guys just loved each other. Cora was so grateful for all of Jim Tracy's guidance and teaching. And when Cora became the manager of the Red Sox the last time, he called up the manager of the Worcester Red Sox, who happened to be Jim Tracy's son, Chad Tracy. And the Red Sox just fired Cora this season, like 10 games into the season, remember? And they named Chad Tracy as the interim coach. So this story is kind of like Alex Cora is Ted Lasso and Chad Tracy is Nate. And Alex Cora is still there and picks up the phone every time Chad Tracy calls him for advice. And there are zero hard feelings. He's rooting for him the whole way. And his Tracy's dad, Jim, is just thrilled to death, but not surprised by this. And it's just a nice story about being a decent person to the guy who replaced you when you got shit canned unexpectedly. I mean, Alex Cora won them a World Series, for God's sakes.
Yeah.
And they fired him.
We talked about that before. It wasn't his fault.
Yeah.
Yep.
Good one.
Improved.
All right. How does anybody have a buzzer beater?
Real quick, and this could have been a lasso. There are already shaping up to be some great stories for the teams making Omaha for the College World Series. Probably none better than the Troy Trojans of Alabama. They are not on the front part of your tongue when you think about the best of college baseball. They're in a smaller conference. They ran the gauntlet through knocking off some really impressive teams. They definitely have the talent. They will not be favored there, but nonetheless, that's an incredible, lower than a mid-major team probably to make the College World Series. The College World Series already with two teams remaining, there's a hell of a battle between rivals OU Kansas that's going on. OU's up 1-0 that series, and that game was suspended. And there's another game that was suspended, but it's likely to have 5 out of the 8 teams that make Omaha from the SEC. It's SEC dominated.
OU's in. They're in.
OU's now in?
Yeah.
Okay.
Troy Trojans are so below the radar that this whole time I thought they were Troy State.
No, they beat, they took out Florida. I was like, what the hell?
And you got Alabama and North Carolina going to the Omaha.
Yeah, what are you going to do about that?
I don't know.
Because we've never actually found out your baseball allegiance.
Yeah, I don't know.
That's still open and available.
Because SMU doesn't have a team. So
we learned today that you
probably
also
Diamond
lived
Heels
in Arkansas for a while. Are they in?
I did go to baseball camp.
Make it.
I did go to baseball camp for years in North Carolina in Chapel Hill. So
Well,
He's
you
got
should
Texas
declare that.
too,
Put
by
the
the
marker
way.
down now.
He's got Texas
Marker right there
as well.
no, fuck Texas.
It should be fun. I think the College World Series should get a bigger stage. It's really, really fun. If you haven't seen some of these videos from Morgantown and particularly West Virginia and their whole run, holy mackerel. That fan
good
base
team.
is rabid about West Virginia. And, look out for the Georgia Bulldogs and Texas and North Carolina. I think those are going to be the likely ones that make it through.
All
Be
right.
fun.
It was
Fun.
very shocking
Fun.
UCLA get
And real quick,
There we are.
Kimi Antonelli just won his 5th race in a row. Monaco, biggest win of his career. And the funniest part of Monaco was Max Verstappen couldn't get off the starting grid. I can't wait to hear his excuse and what Red Bull's going to do between now and the Spanish Grand Prix. Could be interesting.
How old is Antonelli? Right
19.
now? 19 years old. And he's won.
Youngest ever.
Yeah. Wow.
what a
That's
life.
crazy.
You guys know when you go to the
What a
county
life.
fair and you give a couple bucks to get in the bumper car and everybody starts and your bumper car doesn't go anywhere and everyone's going around there. That's what I thought about.
That's perfect.
Oh,
Max
man.
is like, my bumper car won't go.
I mean, I wish they had the radio for him when he couldn't get off the grid.
Oh, he had to be so pissed.
Yeah. Yeah.
Love it.
Well, we miss you, Bison. Come back soon. So
Yeah,
we can talk
good luck.
College World Series.
And
Stop
good
drawing
luck with
cases. Jeez.
Good luck.
All right, boys.
All right, fellas. See you next week.
USA.